this is Allison DeMarco, and this is the Roadmap to Practicing Success Zoom call. Before we begin, I would like to encourage you to download the PDF from sacredmusicflorida.com/workshops. You'll need to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there you will see a flow chart which describes the technique that we're going to be discussing today. So you will also need to download a metronome from the App Store if you don't have one already. That will be very helpful as we discuss the technique today. So without further ado, let's join the class that's already in session. All right, so our time is very valuable, and we want to get the most out of it when we're practicing. So, and you know, one thing that Dr. Kish mentioned last week too, that I wholeheartedly agree with everything he said, but one thing in particular is it doesn't really matter how much time that you're practicing every day. What really matters is what you're doing with the time that you're spending. Okay. Sometimes you feel like you've hit a plateau, you're not getting better. Sometimes, and in every case, at some point or another, it is not unusual in anything, not just music, but that, we hit a time where we say, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This is getting hard. I don't think I'm making progress, but it's really important for you not to give up. And we're going to talk about why. So practicing can be very fun. As long as you're seeing improvement, but it also can become very tedious if we're not sure what to do. We don't have a plan. But good practice techniques come with great rewards, like we were able to play something that we thought was impossible, or in pieces that we really like, and we can do it with ease. And so everybody enjoys doing what's fun, right? And when we first started taking piano lessons, you're probably very excited. You probably, imagine being able to play different pieces that you really like and being able to sit at the piano and play. But it's your first lesson. You're most likely listening very carefully and taking in all the words that your teacher said. And you went home, practiced for the next few weeks, and continued. And then after a while, you get a little bit frustrated, right? Because it gets hard. And playing the piano, and I'm using piano here. I'm talking about any instrument. I made this for when I was talking to a group of pianists, but any instrument, whether you're singing, whether you're playing the violin, guitar, flute, but it gets hard, and hard things aren't exactly fun. And that's where the first little bit of, I think I might want to quit comes in. It's like, I wrote here, do you enjoy doing algebra? No, because it's hard, right? But there is great reward for staying in there. Now, a little bit about music lessons before we go down this road of practicing, because I feel it's important that we talk about some of these things first. If you're involved in some kind of sports, they go to a supervised practice almost every day. Swimming in the school near us is 2 hours of drills and rehearsal after school every single day. And in music, we go to a 30 to 60 minute lesson every week. And maybe we practice 15, 30. I said that. I hope you're doing more than that, but maybe an hour a day, even though it's not about time. And we expect great success from this. And it just doesn't work. It's difficult to achieve success with these type of circumstances when we're putting in that small amount of time. So as we go on, and I was saying too, a lot of my students over the years have come in, and we do 5 days a week in the beginning. And once they learn how to practice, then we start cutting back 2 or 3 days a week. And because I want them to get a good technique in practicing so that when they go home, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. So let's take a look at this. And this is getting into the chart that I sent to you. How many times a day do you play a passage? So you play a passage, maybe you play it, once, twice. And so you play it a few times and you make a mistake and then you play it once right. And you think, oh, okay, I've got this. But really what your brain is doing is your brain is remembering. It's not going to remember that one time that you played it right. Okay, it's going to remember the numerous times that we really didn't play it right. And so what's important is that we are taking this so slowly, and I said on here about difficult passage. This is great for really difficult passage. It's great for also going through your entire piece. However, if you've got something you can't get past, this will undoubtedly get you past it. So when you practice, it's important to never practice faster than you can play that passage correctly. And so the reason that that's so important is because you all are smart. And God made our minds so quick, and that we can take in this information. If you make a mistake, your mind is taking it in over and over and over again. And it's important that we enforce what's right and not the mistake. So we need to play it right more times than we play it wrong. So slow is the key. Now, here is where I am going to go off here, and you tell me if you cannot see this, but this is the chart that I sent to you. All right, so when you look up at the top here, it says find your foundation tempo. So finding your foundation tempo is the tempo that you can play completely correctly. You can play the passage correctly with no mistakes. Okay, so how are we going to go about finding that tempo? So you're going to set your metronome on a tempo that allows you to play through the passage comfortably the first time with no mistakes. All right, so I like to all of you, I hope, if you don't have a metronome on your phone or one that's separate, you can go on the App Store and get one. So if I start off, and I like to use numbers divisible by 5s, okay? So if I start off and my tempo is 70 beats per minute, you can hear my metronome, okay? And I play through my passage and I make a mistake. Now, I'm gonna take that down to 65 from 70. I don't know if you can see me here or not, but probably not, but there's 65 beats a minute. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to play it through. If I make a mistake again, I'm going to take it down another 5 beats per minute. And now we are at 60 beats per minute, okay? The idea is that you're finding the tempo that your mind and your hands and every part of you can play this comfortably, okay? That's where you need to sit and work and work and work, and I'm going to show you how. But this is your foundation tempo, as I call it, okay? This is where you're comfortable and you can play it correctly. And there's no anxiety or anything else. You can play it at this speed. Now, what is correct? Let's define what's correct. And it shows over here in the red box. Correct means right notes, okay? Right rhythms, the dynamics that are written on the page, and any other markings that you see. You've got slurs, you've got staccato notes, you have everything that belongs in that passage needs to be correct in order for you to count it as correct. Where it says, did you play it correctly? That means everything that was in that passage. And it's also important to keep in mind not to take off a large section, okay? So you want a small amount where you can control it, where you can say, all right, I can handle this passage. If you keep going down and down and down in tempo, and you don't seem to be able to find that correct spot, what you need to do is make the passage shorter, okay? If it's a 4-bar passage, cut it in half, make it 2. And I know with my students and we sometimes cut it down to even 1 measure. So it's about finding that if the piece is very difficult, 1 measure can be overwhelming even, okay? So, but it's about finding that that place and that speed where you can play it correctly, everything. Okay, so you can look down here on the no. So here's what we did. Did you play it correctly? No. So we decreased the metronome by 5 beats per minute and we played it again. Did you play it correctly this time? Oh, no, we didn't. So that's what we just did. We went back and we did it again till finally we said, yes, we can play it correctly at this tempo. This is our foundation tempo. It becomes about strengthening your strengthening the passage in your mind. Okay, everything we're going to do from this point forward is to cause your mind to absorb this difficult information the best way possible, and we're doing that by playing it right more times than wrong. So you're going to play your passage at the foundation tempo. Did you play it correctly? No, we're going to do it now. At this point, look at the red box. You can play. You've got it. You've got your metronome up here. Okay, and you're playing, and you've played it right once. All right, so here I keep on my piano. I've got 10 points here. It's called, you know, the 10 penny game. It's kind of a really simple little thing that you might think is a very young kids game. So what you're going to do is, and I'm going to try to show you this. So I do this. I put all these pennies or coins. One of my students uses orange crayons. So you can use whatever you want. You could use M&Ms. You can use anything. 10 of whatever you want. Okay. So you play it right. I take a penny and I slide it over to the other side. All right. We get it right. All right. So then you play it again. And again, you've got your metronome on your foundation tempo right now. Where you can play it right. So then let's say we get it right again. We give ourselves another penny. Now we play it the third time, we get it wrong. You're going to take one and you're going to put it back in the pile. It's not like you don't get one this time. You actually have to put one back. Okay. So it's just a little game that you can play with yourself. By the time you're finished, you're going to end up playing this right more times than you play it wrong. Okay. It works with anything, any instrument. Now let's just say we get it wrong again. Now we're out of pennies. Okay, we're completely out. And let's just say 2 or 3 more times, we can't get it right. We're not getting it right. So if you run into that problem, you have to say, okay, at this point, we need to slow it down again. Okay, I don't think at this point you need to shorten the passage, but you do need to slow it down, because if you have too many wrongs in a row, you're really going to need to adjust your tempo. All right, so let's just say again, we go through, we get it right somewhere around, we get it right, we get it wrong, we put one back, somewhere around 6, 7 pennies. You are going to really start to know it. Okay, you're going to really start to understand this, and it's going to start to feel comfortable, and you're going to find that there's a point where you think, oh, it just feels easy now, and it's a great feeling, because I can do this, I can do it. And so this is actually, this whole flow chart that I sent you, this is basically what it is. Okay, it's just the penny game. Now, you're going to keep going until you move all your pennies into this new pile. Okay, and even though this sounds really very simple, it works wonders. And I think you can see how, in that when you are, I don't know, I say it to my kids, I say, when you're just bashing this into your brain at such a slow tempo, that and it may feel ridiculously slow after a while, but don't speed up. Don't speed up. Okay, resist the urge. And because slow is your friend. And Dr. Kish told us last week, and he is so correct, in that the longer you keep it slow, the quicker that you're going to be able to get it to a finished tempo. Okay, so you can't allow yourself to get in the temptation of playing everything fast, because what you'll do, and I've told my kids before, is it's like you're creating, let's say you're creating something beautiful that's, I don't know, maybe you're creating something beautiful that's breakable, like like crystal. I don't know, we make crystal, but anyway, you're creating something beautiful, and then when you speed it up, before you're ready, It's like you're taking a hammer and smashing all that work you just did. Okay. It's really, really like that. You just undid everything when you speed it up, because your mind is so powerful to take all of this in, but it has to be taken in chunks of information, small bits of information at a speed that your brain can handle it. Okay. So there's some things, and by the way, along the way, if you've got questions, please tell me. I haven't been looking at the chat here, but if you've got a question, just unmute and ask a question. So all right. Anyway, this is it seems like, oh, such a simple, easy little game or whatever. Last week, I would set up a practice schedule where you keep a journal, like my daughter and and some of my students, they have a journal where they are writing out what they do every day. This was my goal, and did you accomplish it? Here's how I accomplished it. This was, so tomorrow I want to be able to do this. Maybe I want to go, I want to be able to do the half of the next page or something, whatever your goal is. And maybe within that page, there's a very difficult passage. So the first thing you do when you open up your book and you're getting ready to play is you go straight to what's hard. Okay. Don't waste time. You're going to waste time playing what you already know. So go to what you don't know and put your metronome on, find your tempo, and do the pennies. Okay. And you won't need this. Like about 2 or 3 days, and like one day into this, you won't need this anymore, but it maps out the process. All right. It's going to be, you're going to get very familiar with the process. After, let's just say you've done this with your pennies, and and don't think that just because you did it one time, oh, I'm free, I'm set, I've got it. You might want to do 10 pennies on the same 4-bar passage every single day for a week. Okay, at the same tempo. Because if you keep it slow, you're going to know it. You're going to know it so well. Okay. Now let's just say you did that and you had goals for all your pieces. You had goals for your scales. Do you remember last week, Dr. Kish had a chart with, tempi for the scales, all 80 beats per minute all week long, 84 beats a minute all week long. So, I would do that with your scales and with your pieces. He had many different ways you could practice them, but this is just one that I'm zooming in on because I think it's so important to do the slow practice. Let's just say you've done this for a week, or you've even done this for a couple of days and you feel very comfortable. You're thinking, okay, this is a piece of cake. All right, go up by 5s. All right, 5. Don't go up by 10. All right, don't go up by 7 or 8 even. Go up by 5s. And I'll tell you that because I'll say it's tried and tested. When you really go more than 5 beats per minute up, you start to undo the good things that you just did with these pennies, okay? And you don't want to undo that. You want to keep the work intact that you've just created. So be careful with it. Take it up by 5s, and do what I do is I say, if I get it right the first time, I go up 5 again. If I get it right again, I go up 5 again. Now let's say I made a mistake. Feeling a little fast, I made a mistake. Stop at that tempo, work your 10 pennies at that tempo, okay? Just once. Then maybe the next day you come back, you start at that new tempo that's maybe 15, 20 beats per minute faster. You start at that tempo and mark it in your journal. This is where I left off. This is the last tempo I did. Start there. If you get it right the first time, 5 beats more, okay? If you get it right again, 5 beats more. You make a mistake, stop, do your pennies at that tempo. And keep track, because you can see how easily, especially if you're working on more than one piece, you can see how this is going to get hard to keep up with after a while. You know, sometimes we just mark it on the music, but you know, honestly, a practice journal is great because it gives you a certain amount of accountability too. You've gotten this to a fairly deep, you know, fairly good tempo. Maybe you're at the tempo it belongs at. Maybe you're close to being there, but let's change it up a little bit. So we're gonna play around with your mind just a little bit through this. So first thing we're gonna do is, you know, we always play better when we play by memory because we'll really know the piece at that point. I know it's not comfortable always, but it's a good goal. All right. And so play 5 pennies, and you can do this from the very start, from the very first time you set your foundation tempo. You can do this. Play 5 times with the music, looking right at it. And I mean looking at it, observing every notation on the page, looking carefully that you see every single thing. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to play it 5 times without the music. Okay, 5 pennies. I mean, when I say times, I mean earn 5 pennies looking at the music, earn 5 pennies looking away from the music. Okay. Now, another thing that you can do is you can start to remove some of your senses. Okay, so let's start with, for instance, your sense of sight. So close your eyes. Okay, even if you are singing, if you are, you know, playing, you know, you will hear more. If you're playing the piano, you're not going to see the keys. I mean, I'm a flutist. I don't see my keys anyway, but still, you know, whatever you're playing, most everyone, except a flutist and probably a singer, most everyone sees their instrument. Like when you're playing, you observe and you can look at your hands. Shut your eyes. Do 5, you know, try it. Just play it. And you'll even if you turn your metronome off, just play it without looking, with your eyes shut, and listen. Next thing you want to do, and this is only possible with certain instruments, is that you would, let's turn off your sense of even hearing. Okay. My daughter's teacher suggested something that I have found is a fantastic idea, is that he calls it silent keyboard. Okay, and if you're playing piano, if you're playing organ, maybe if you're playing violin, you could do this without bowings. You can just, but you turn it off, and you have to know, am I making a mistake or am I not? You're relying on your sense of touch and everything else. You have to. This is something that you're going to do once you know it pretty well. This is not something for when you're learning it. This is when you feel confident. All right, so taking away different senses. This is something that's really good for prepping for recitals, competitions, and you know, just random mistakes that may come up. You're taking your brain through this carousel of different scenarios. All right, and every single one of them is going to strengthen your playing in one way or another. All these things are meant to strengthen every part of your mind. Okay, your sight, your hearing, the touch, all of it. And even though on the surface it looks like a little kid's game, you earn a penny, you have to put a penny back. You know, change it up, memorize 5, earn 5 pennies with it, earn 5 pennies by memory. Do without looking, shut your eyes, and shut your eyes. Don't just look around the room, because then you get distracted and everything. Okay. And then silent keyboard or playing. These are all the details we need to look to in order to conquer these passages. You can add, you can say, all right, let's take, how many of you, this is such a common thing. You get this passage and feel really confident. And then you add like the 4 bars in front of it. You go, oh no, now I can't do it, right? Because, oh no, now it's messing up. So go back, use your pennies again. Maybe you need 10, maybe you just need 5. You'll know when it feels comfortable. Okay, so go back and add that section before the hard place and integrate it in, okay? So that now you are playing and you've smoothed it out. You've basically taken a very rough spot in the piece and you're going back to the part you know, and you're smoothing it out. Then you can keep going. You can keep adding. Maybe you start at the end of the piece. I love to start at the end. It's usually where the hardest part is. And so you start at the end. Maybe you work backwards, 1 bar at a time, or 4 bars at a time, or 8 bars at a time, depending on the difficulty of your piece. But the important thing is that you're not taking in more information than you can handle. It's really not difficult. It's just an easy thing. And, I called it the roadmap to practice success because it looks, you follow the steps, an easy plan to conquer very difficult things. And I'll tell you right now, and, I told my daughter this for years, and we worked this way. If you can read the notes on the page, if you can count the rhythm, you can literally play anything. You can. Do you hear that saying that people say, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? And that's kind of how it is with music. Let's just say you have something that's, I don't have any music out here right now, but you have something that's very difficult. Well, it at its core, it's just notes and rhythm, okay? You can break it down, hands apart if you're on a keyboard. You can break it down slowly if you're on a violin, flute, instrumental. But the thing is that all things, the Bible tells us we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength, right? And it is true. We can actually play things that are far beyond what you think you can do. You can do so much. You're capable of so much. And if you will only break it down into little bitty pieces so slow that you almost put yourself to sleep practically. No, you don't want that. You want your mind engaged. But do you know what I mean? So slowly that you don't make a mistake. Then if you don't make a mistake, guess what? You don't have to fix mistakes. Okay. So that's the key. And it's short and it's sweet and it's very, very, very simple. But I challenge you to put it into your practice routine. And when you go to practice, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to work an hour today or whatever, I want to accomplish 5 goals, 8 goals or whatever, and put that in there. Add this in to your practice routine. And then next week, what we're going to be doing is basically going beyond this. Okay. This is our starting point. This is where we learn notes and rhythm. This is where we conquer this is where we conquer the difficult passages and we create consistency in our playing. But then we have to move past that. Okay. We have to move past that into creating artistry, and you have to become, you're creating artwork. You're creating God's artwork without a brush and without something that you see, but something that you hear. Okay. A painter has his brushes. He's got his paints. He's got his equipment. He's got his canvas. He's got all these things he needs. And these are tools. Okay. These are your tools for creating this artwork, and putting the finishing touches on is basically what we're going to be talking about next week. We're going to break free of this and the metronome and everything else. And we're going to start turning this into something that's a thing of beauty rather than just boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, down the line. Okay. And one last thing to think about before you leave is that this is just encouraging you to look beyond the practice, beyond your practice at home. Why do we even do this? Look beyond the practice room. Look beyond your lesson. Look beyond your recital, beyond, this competition we do, beyond everything, and realize that this is for God's glory, and that he gave you a talent. He gave you a special gift to use for his kingdom, and that, he has a purpose for you. It wasn't an accident that you guys can play. It's not an accident that he's putting you here today and giving you information to grow your talent. And just know that through what you do, whether it has words, which is fantastic. When you're singing, you have words. It's wonderful. Whether you don't have words, the Holy Spirit can speak through music that has no words. He can take captive people's thoughts, and he can cause those thoughts to be obedient unto him, and to literally take people into a a memory or a thought of the Lord or a state of mind that he wants to speak to their heart with. And, multiple times people come up afterwards in tears and say, this really touched my heart because it reminded me of this, or I feel like the Lord was saying this to me through what you did. You are instruments. You are the instruments, okay? And God can play you and use you for mighty things in your life. And so, as you're practicing, if it tends to get a little tedious or whatever, just keep your mind on the goal. That's, not just this passage and not just your lesson or your recital or anything. It's for God to be able to use you. And so anyway, well, thank you guys so much. This was such a pleasure. And I will see you hopefully next week, 4:00. And I hope you have a wonderful week and that you get your pennies out and you're ready to go. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you at 4:00 next Monday. Bye-bye.